Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sunday, December 15th, 2024, around 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois. Today, we are doing something quite special. We are going to play a play-by-mail game over the next couple of weeks that's being written as we play it. Sort of bespoke investigatory game where we will get a letter. I have the first letter here. We will read it, decide what to do in some form, decide how to reply to it, and then the author, Matt C., who is in the channel with us today, will write a custom reply letter for us, which we will read next week, and so on and go on for 4 or 5 weeks. It's a very strange idea. However, it is one we've done before. We did it once before, almost exactly a year ago. It was a very special experience. I'm glad to have you here joining me for this one. This will be a group effort. There are going to be some things different about this year's case, though, and we'll get into that in a second. But let me just check in with the chat, see how everyone's doing. Who in the channel joined us for last year's improv? Boy, would it be nice if we made this a yearly tradition. I'm not sure we can. Matt C. is the author who did last year's as well. So unless we can clone some more Matts or get one of the rest, someone else in the channel may get excited about this idea and consider doing one for next year. Macon says, I was here last year. It was amazing. Anna says it was great. Debbie says, I edited it. That's right. Debbie Levy did lots of editing on the last set of letters and is helping out with this letter. And Rob was here. Rob helped prepare some of the documents. Let's do a little bit of bookkeeping. Then I'll tell you a little bit more about what's different about this case. You can see one thing that's different right here, this box for high and low. We'll talk about that in a second. Some bookkeeping first. If you haven't seen my holiday gift guide for tabletop mystery games yet, you may want to check that out. It's 30 minutes long. I recommend 70 games in 24 categories. Seems to be a popular video, and I hope you find something in there that's useful. On Friday, we played a Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective fan case from a series called the Winter Trilogy. Enjoyed it quite a bit. The Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective fan cases are always enjoyable. But we will be playing Chapter 2 on Monday, tomorrow. And then Chapter 3, which I think will take us more than one session, looks quite complex and long. We'll be playing that on Wednesday and Thursday, I think. And then we've got a couple more things in December that we want to do. At the very end of the month, we'll be playing Razorhurst Blood Alley by John Keane, a print and play game inspired or adjacent to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So it looks like this is the month for fan cases. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do that in different ways. But I was thinking it would be nice to play one of the deluxe, expensive, multi-part escape room cold case games I have. And the one I was thinking we might play is by Murder & Co. It's very expensive. It's the second most expensive one I own. We've played Cozy Killer previously over 12 sessions. And that one is like a $300 thing. Murder & Co. is several $100s. And I'm curious to try one. But we have a whole bunch of games to catch up on. We'll be doing a lot of streaming in December. Okay, anything else to talk about before I tell you a little bit more about this improv, is what we're calling it, improv case. So the previous improv case we made was set in Victorian London Sherlock Holmes. For this one, I asked Matt if he would be willing, as an experiment, to set this case in the world of New York Noir. High and Low was the previous name. This is a game I've been working on for 2 years with help from people in the channel, set in New York City's in the 1920s to 1950s, based on Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but significantly bigger and with some new experimental ideas that have come out of some of our discussions here. Now, you can download and play a couple of cases for New York Noir right now on your own with digital PDFs. You can play a very long, difficult case called The Wrong Book That I Wrote, and you can now play a very easy, short tutorial case that I've written called The Crooked Past. The Past is a Crooked Game. Okay, and Rocky Helton has written a case called Hit the Ground Running, which we play live on the channel. So right now you can download the materials for New York Noir, previously called High and Low, and play a couple of cases. And I'd love to have more authors writing cases for this game. There's a Discord for this channel. You can jump in there. Okay, but Matt has done something unusual. He's going to set the case in this world. And I think the idea is that we will use the directories and maps to decide where to go. But it's obviously not a standard game for New York Noir because we won't be looking up paragraphs. We'll be somehow submitting our advice, our suggestions, and getting a reply. This is particularly interesting to me because I love the play-by-mail games, and I would like to write the software to let people create play-by-mail games for New York Noir. So I am very interested to see what we can learn from this experience, but Matt is in completely uncharted territory here. This is a totally new world to him, and there's no play testing of this kind of thing. And I've learned how important, especially for these kinds of games, play testing is. So he's really walking on a tightrope. And I have told Matt the same thing last year as I told him this year, which is, don't worry about making this good. Don't worry about writing a good case, about writing everything well and making a great mystery. In this case, I think it's enough to just make it work. Make it not combust. Make the wheels not completely come off the wagon. So I don't have any high expectations for this. I don't think we have any expectations, really. We're just going to see what happens over the next couple weeks. And I have no idea how this game is even going to work, if it even will work. We'll see. Okay. Is that enough? Matt, do you want to say anything else? I should have checked in. Oh, I did check in with the chat. Anything else to say about this? I mean, we're going to open the letter together. We'll read it. We'll learn about it. And then we will open up the box for High and Low and get out the documents and the directories. One thing I should say is that Matt is using the directories and maps in the latest uploaded version, which is what all my cases use as well. But that directory and maps are many months old, and lots of things have been improved and fixed in them in the beta version that's not yet available. So we are going to be playing with slightly old directory that has some flaws and issues, and same thing with the maps. So this is all a very experimental beta experience. So if you're here for something super polished, this is not going to scratch that itch. But if you're here for a more experimental high wire act where people are going to be falling off the high wire, then this might be for you. Anything else to talk about before we get started? Is everyone looking forward to Christmas? YouTube says 26 concurrent viewers, 6 likes. I don't know how long this will take, but not more than an hour or so, I assume. All right, no other projects people are working on and want to talk about? If you're interested in volunteering to help make content for New York Noir or write cases, please do consider stopping by the Discord. There is a Board Game Geek page for this game. And if you visit that, you could download the directories and maps if you want to play along with us while we play this, to have your own set of maps and directories in front of you. All right, then let's get started and open up our first letter here and see what it's all about. Okay, so we've got 2 pages and a half. Okay, from Bill Wiggins. I see we've got ties to Sherlock Holmes world. Bill Wiggins at 100 LaSalle Street, apartment 2E, New York City, New York, October 1st, 1929. Dear Mr. Rycourt, I hope this letter finds you well, old friend. It pains me to trouble you in your retirement, but I am once again in need of your help. It's been a long time since our last case, and since then I have emigrated to the United States for a new start. I'd hoped the days of sleuthing were behind us, but our mutual friend Sherlock Holmes's legendary reputation continues to attract solicitations. In light of his own retirement, Holmes has been passing all of his American post my way, despite my best efforts to deter him. I still have some affection for the old geezer. He sends me clover honey twice a year, so I do my best to get these cases into good hands, which is why I've reached out. I recall a case from years ago that introduced you to the now booming stock market. I'm hoping you can assist me with a letter I received from a Wall Street trader. You can run all of the correspondence by me and I'll get it where it needs to go. I won't be knocking on doors this time, but I usually call in favors for these types of things. There are always interested parties willing to help solve the case, by which I mean they'll follow leads if you pay them. I'll let you keep whatever's left over of the $25 fee after expenses. Try not to run out or we'll have to incur debt and take a loss on this. These cases happen often enough now that I've created a form for detectives to fill out. I think I've given you everything you'll need, but let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Choose as many leads as you'd like, but money is limited and you'll always have more information later. Good luck, your pal Wiggins. Okay, so we've got a connection to Sherlock Holmes, and it's our old friend Wiggins who's retiring and is passing along a case to us about a Wall Street stock market trader. We've got $25. Whatever's left over is profit. Love it. Okay, Gumshoes for Hire. Jackie Hardboil is an established private investigator I visit when I need to bring out the big guns. He's a master detective and former homicide officer with 20 years experience and several high-profile cases under his belt. He charges $2 per lead, so use him wisely. I don't think that's his real name. Roger Vernon is a great war veteran and medic. Reminds me of Watson. He was deployed briefly toward the end of the war and has something to prove. He frequents the boxing ring, so I wouldn't want to get on his bad side. He charges 50 cents a lead. I see what's going on here. Very interesting. All right, Duddy Brooks is an unsavory character, but you can hire him if you don't mind his way of getting things done. He's served time for burglary, but boasts of a clean record for the past 5 years. He charges 50 cents per lead. Hear me out on this one. There's a man named Tobias Pabst who can be hired at events as a Buster Keaton impersonator. I used him once to get eyes into a gala. He's convincing and used to be a farmer upstate. He charges $1 an hour. My God, that's expensive. Joe Fillion is a retired beat cop with a slight drinking problem. He charges by the bottle, so let's call it 25 cents a lead. I don't use him often, but he's cheap and has 2 feet. My 15-year-old daughter, Alice Wiggins, also wants to follow in my footsteps and earn a quarter after school when she can. She's sharp like me and blunt enough to throw liars off. I pay her 25 cents a lead. Keep her out of trouble and in school. Only 1 lead per week for Alice, please. Feel free to also request an expert if needed. I have some connections to local law enforcement, among others. Okay, so you can see what's happened here. We have played a play-by-mail game series called Murders by Mail, where you've got 3 people, and every week you can send each one of them to a different place. But Matt C. has created an interesting new mechanic here, which I had no advanced warning about, which is fascinating, though, which is we've got a set of people we can send. They have their different specialties. So one thing, like Murders by Mail, is figuring out who to send where. But here we've got an extra twist, which is that some of these people are cheaper than others. And we are motivated to keep this case affordable. It's one of the ways that it's interesting to sort of optimize things. But yes, okay, so we've got our most expensive one is the Buster Keaton impersonator. Surely we won't have much use for him, but he can sneak into public events, or private events, I should say. And we've got a very experienced investigator for $2 a lead. And we've got a tough guy for 50 cents and a burglar criminal underground guy for 50 cents. Then we've got a cheap drinking problem beat cop for 25 cents a lead, and then Alice for 25 cents. And then if we need someone special, we could ask for it. Okay. Now, and then, so then we have another page here, which is going to lay out the case. And I can see our third sheet is for filling out requests. Wiggins took a finder's fee of $3, so we actually only have $22 left. Okay. All right. So the last thing in today's letter is the details of the case being laid out, sent to us by Michael Lant, 1 Water Street, apartment 1B. Water Street is down near the southern tip of Manhattan. We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look on the map after we finish reading. Dear Mr. Wiggins, thank you for taking my case on behalf of Sherlock Holmes. It may seem trivial, but there are powerful people in my circles, and I want to discover what exactly is going on here. I'm a stockbroker. I spend most days on the floor of the Wall Street Stock Exchange. Large transactions occur daily, and any kind of compromise to the institution's trust would be scandalous. Business is booming right now, and the jovial mood has inspired a friendly after-hours card game on Fridays at Francis Tavern. I assure you there is nothing illegal about our game. However, it does play a small part in some honoraries and privileges. For example, yesterday's game determined who would need to cover the Baltimore phone operator's lunch break. The game is organized by Mason Carrier, a bit of an oddball, owns a financial consulting firm. He's very rigid in his methods and requires everyone to write down their scores and hand them in, and gets agitated when he's missing one. The game is Discard Hearts. There are always 8 players, and we play 2 tables of 4. There are occasional guests, but 6 of us are regulars for the most part. It pains me to say it, but I suspect foul play in our friendly game. I'll lay the players and facts out as best as I can. The guests aren't normally too notable, but Earl Floyd, a high-ranking Westinghouse executive, did stop by last week for a game. First among the regulars is Sawyer Hartman. Hartman works for J.P. Morgan Bank and relays trades from several East Coast branches. He's a sharp guy with remarkably perfect teeth. I don't know much about him otherwise. Dean Kimmel is a wealthy investor. He inherited his fortune from his father, who operated a railroad in Ohio before cashing in with Rockefeller. He spends most of his waking hours on Wall Street making trades and borrowing his way into as many stocks as possible since about 2 years ago. Most of us are borrowing at this point to maximize our holdings, but he helped start the trend last year. Maurice Hamoud owns an insurance company called American Family Insurance. It's mostly property insurance, but he's dabbling in some new interests from his time on Wall Street. He's also a heavy investor at the exchange. Finally, there's James Jimmy Cunningham. Jimmy's also a stockbroker who logs orders on the floor. We're both versed in hand signals, and we use them to take each other's lunch orders once in a while. Closed fist, thumbs down means no mayo. I've never seen anything odd from him. Nice guy, but a bit of a sore loser when the game doesn't go his way. I've had him over for dinner a few times over the years. Then there's me. I'm not sure there's much to say, but if there's anything you'd like to know, just ask. I have a wife and a beautiful 6-month-old daughter. I'm hoping to earn enough to move us into a larger space. I wish I could see them more often, but between all the excitement on Wall Street and after-hours social obligations, I regretfully find myself sleeping in a cot in my office at Irving Trust Bank. Hearts is a trick-taking game like whist. The goal is not to win any hearts or to win as few as possible. You get a point for every heart you take, and the lowest score wins. But whoever is stuck with the Queen of Spades, the Black Lady, gets 13 points. The entire deck is dealt out before play begins, and you get to pass off 3 cards to your neighbor at the start of the game. Something is just not right. Kimmel and Hamoud always seem to win. It's rare when they don't, but the odd thing is they're barely trying. They make terrible plays all the time, along with Hartman. One night last week, Hartman passed his 3 cards to Kimmel and accidentally dropped them. I got a look, and they were all low cards. I don't understand why he'd be handing Kimmel the best cards. I know this all seems petty, but I have a good reason for raising it. I started paying attention to Hartman and Kimmel at the exchange when I can, and they've been selling reliably accelerating stocks like AT&T and New York Central Railroad. Most of us are scrambling to purchase these. Jimmy is as confused as I am. I brought this all up to him last week, and he suggested we start carefully digging into it. He dropped off a large pile of ticker tape at my desk, which I've been slowly working through, looking for Kimmel and Hamoud purchases. Really, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but I'll let you know what I find. Please be discreet. Best of luck with your investigation. I hope it can provide me with some peace of mind. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like me to pay attention to at the exchange or our next game. Sincerely, Michael Want. So we've got a case. A letter from a Wall Street trader. Doesn't say anything about it here. Then we've got this very odd case that seems to be just about a card game, but he's worried that it's tying into the stock market. It's 1929. Things are going to get scary pretty soon for them, but okay. So a whole bunch of stock traders that have a regular weekly card game on Friday at Francis Tavern. Nothing illegal. They're just playing hearts, but they do occasionally get some guests. They always play 8. There's 6 regulars and 2 guests. Game is organized by Mason Carrier. Okay, that's fine. The game is Discard Hearts. Discard Hearts. I know Hearts, and Whist was a super popular game back in the day. No one knows it anymore. Okay, Hearts, 2 tables of 4. And then he says, I think there's foul play in the card game. Okay. Why are you hiring a detective for foul play in a card game, though? And how are we going to discover that from afar? He tells us about the regulars who play. Okay, and then he says he's caught one of them or 2 of them acting odd. He tells us the basic rules of hearts. You're trying to get as few hearts as possible, so you're trying to lose tricks. Okay, you deal out the whole card. It's a trick-taking game. Everyone puts forward a card. The player with the highest card wins the trick, except trump suit. I don't know the exact rules here, but then you get punished also if you have the black lady, the queen of spades. Okay, but then he's saying something's not right. These 2 are always winning. It's rare when they don't, but they're barely trying. They make terrible plays all the time. Along with Hartman's, there's 3 people making terrible trades. These 2 are always winning. Then he's saying Hartman passed his 3 cards to Kimmel, accidentally dropped them. He got to look at them, and he sees they're all low cards. Like, why is he giving away low cards? He should be trying to keep those if he wants to win. He says, I don't understand why. So it looks like they're cheating. One guy is giving cards to Kimmel so that he'll win. Why is he handing Kimmel the best cards? He says, I know it's petty, but I have a good reason for raising it. He's paying attention to the Hartman and Kimmel. Okay. That's one of the guys who's winning and one of the guys who's playing poorly and trying to give him cards. So are these 2 working together to cheat at hearts? And he says, I'm started paying attention to them. They've been selling accelerating stocks. So what does that mean that they're selling accelerating stocks? Most of us are scrambling to purchase these. So are they're selling stocks that are going up in value, so they're not making money on them? Or they're selling them because they know something about the coming stock market crash. Jimmy is as confused as I am. That's the other person he knows. I brought this all up to him last week. He suggested we start digging into it. He's given him the ticker tape, which holds a record of the trades, and he's looking for what they're purchasing. What a strange case. What a strange case. So we've got players cheating at hearts. Why are they cheating at hearts? Are they even betting any money? Are they even playing for money here? Now remember the rules. Matt is not supposed to be answering any of these questions from me. Matt is not allowed to give us any guidance. Whatever questions we have are going to have to be handled through this system. We're going to pretend like Matt's there, but let's check in with the chat and see what people have observed. Debbie says, my first thought is some kind of insider trading. Could the cards they pass be indicating what to buy or sell or how much? What that would be crazy. You would just go off to the side, meet up for lunch, and have a discussion about what to buy. You wouldn't have to pass the information through a card game. Marco says Black Tuesday is only 1 month ahead. So we happen to know that the stock market crash is coming, but I don't think we're supposed to use that information here. we're not time travelers. We're putting ourselves back in time here. Debbie says, are they shorting the stock knowing something's wrong with it? That's an interesting idea. I don't know when shorting stocks and buying options happened. Actually, we do. Actually, we do. So we're going to have a little discussion here about options and shorting stocks. But we do know that they're doing it, that they're just starting to do it. Because look, he talks about it. Where does he say he's borrowing money to buy stock? He does mention it. He mentions it as a new activity. Where is it? Where does he say that? He says he wants to make more money to move in. Where does he say about they're all versed in hand signals for buying. They even have fun playing it, using it to order stuff. Okay. Where is the discussion about borrowing money? I know I read it somewhere. Because it's important for us. If this has to do with shorting stocks, etc. I know I read it. Does anyone remember where it was? Bankers. Kimmel is a wealthy investor. He inherited his fortune from his father. He spends his time on Wall Street. There we go. Okay. This is kind of important. Borrowing his way into as many stocks as possible. The key word being borrowing. Most of us are borrowing at this point to maximize our holdings. So this is important because this is all what options and shorting stocks have to do with. The idea is you borrow a huge sum of money, buy some stock, then it goes up, you sell it, and you've made a profit, you pay back your loan, and you take the profit. So it's a way to make a huge amount of money with very high risk, but without your own money, right? You might borrow $1 million on some high interest rate, buy some stock you know is going to go up, then you sell it, you pay back the loan, and it's all pure profit that you get to keep, and you didn't actually risk, you didn't have any money. Of course, if you lose money, you're in trouble. Now, when you're shorting stock or buying options, you're sort of doing it in the other direction. You're promising to buy a stock at a certain price. You're promising to sell a stock at a certain price. And if it goes down, then the person who agreed to pay to buy it for you is paying you more than it's worth. But you're gambling that it's going to decrease in value. So I haven't explained that well because it's a little hard to wrap my head around. But I guess why we think that might be important is if these people are selling stocks that they know are going to go down in price, they're selling stocks because they're going to go down in price and they're rapidly accelerating. So they're going up, but these folks may know that that the bottom's gonna fall out. I'm not selling options or anything, but maybe it's just as simple of dumping stocks that you know are going to go up in the short term, but then drop. So do they have inside information about these particular companies or about the entire stock market? So yes, I mean, I guess our intuition is that these people are in general cheaters and that they may be not cheating, but maybe trading on some insider information or pumping up the stock, right? That's the other kind of fraud that happens with stocks, is that they can have a way of making these stocks rise. Then you might ask, why aren't they holding on to them though? Because they know they're just pumping, inflating the value, and eventually it's going to crash. So I'm not as familiar about what caused the stock market crash, but they could be pump and dump. They could be pumping up the value. I mean, AT&T is a pretty stable company though, but I don't know anything about New York Central Railroad. I'm still having a little bit of a trouble connecting the card game to this investigation and why this guy is interested in this. Is he just an interested observer? Like he doesn't want the stock exchange to get harmed in general. It's just a little weird that he's taken this on himself to be worried about these friends of his. All right, let's make some notes here. Kimmel and Hamoud always seem to win, but they barely try. I guess they're just cheating, but I'm not sure why. I don't even know if they're making money. I guess these are things we can ask Michael, right? If we have any questions in a normal game, we're just stuck with the questions. But here we can ask Michael to clarify some stuff to us. And so let's ask him to clarify if he can think of any reason why these two should be, why they should want to win. What's the point in cheating and winning? Okay, so, but these are the two that are winning, and it looks like they've got a helper, Hartman, who isn't winning, but is helping them win by giving them his good cards. Do we get told how the breakup, we get told there's 2 tables of 4, but do we get told who's playing on what tables? The game is organized by Mason Carrier, who owns a financial consulting firm, rigid in his methods. Okay. Then we've got Sawyer Hartman. This is the guy who's playing poorly and losing deliberately to the other guys. All right. Then we have Dean Kimmel. This is one of our guys that's apparently cheating, borrowing his way. Okay. Then we've got Hamoud. This is the other guy who's winning and cheating. Insurance company. Dabbling in some new interest from his time on Wall Street. A heavy investor. Okay. And then we've got our guy, which is Michael Wan. And then we've got Jimmy Cunningham, who's a friend of our guy who's writing to us. Those are the 6 regulars. 0 through 5. Okay, and then 2 guests. So, guests that rotate in. So if you were looking for a connection between the card game, if they're playing for money, that's one thing. Maybe these are just greedy people and they like to win at everything and they're trying to win a little bit money on the card game. But there is another possibility, I guess, right? Which is he mentions that he and Jimmy are the writer of this letter, and Jimmy are versed in hand signals, which they do on the trading floor. And this could be a clue. Like, what if Kimmel, Hamoud, and Hartman are just like practicing? They're practicing sending secret hand signals to communicate, which they are going to use in a larger scheme on the stock market floor to send signals, like when a stock's going to go up or down. And so they're sort of using this game to practice. Or you could look at it the other way, like they're all using some secret hand signals to coordinate their stock market fraud, and just for fun, they're like using it to rig this game of hearts. So I guess hand signals are... So if we're going to start keeping notes about our reply, let's just... I mean, it does seem like with this list, we're going to send them places, but let's make a list of a couple other things we're interested in, like that we're going to write back to Michael, like keep an eye out for hand signals. Any motive for winning, for rigging the heart games? Are you playing for money? We'll just keep a list of things to that we might want to mention. Okay. Now, did we answer my question about the breaking up on the table? If not, we might want to ask that question, right? Very rigid. Requires everyone to write down their scores and hand them in. That's a weird detail. What is that about? I guess another question. Earl Floyd came by last week. I guess another question that I have is going to be, how are the players split between tables? If Hartman is always helping Kimmel, who helps Mood? That's the other person who's always winning. Okay. The other way to look at it is just that it seems like our task is really not to investigate the card game. It's a little hard for us to investigate that, but we could investigate the stock market trades. I just don't know why you'd have to... why you wouldn't just meet up with someone. I mean, I suppose you'd be very nervous about getting caught exchanging insider information, but I don't know why you wouldn't just have a discussion with someone. I mean, if two people were going to agree to perform some stock manipulation, you wouldn't do that by exchanging secret signals in a card game. with other people around. It would be far safer to just the two of you go off for lunch somewhere in a park and make the plans. There would be no reason to be forced to have this discussion at a weekly card game. Now, if you're practicing giving hand signals so you can do so on the floor of the stock exchange, that's a totally different matter. So you could see the value in being able to send secret messages on the floor in view of everyone. DJ Monica says, if the writer is versed in hand signals, wouldn't he notice if the others were using them? That's a good point. Debbie says, I still think they're communicating something through the cards, especially with the part about having to write down scores. Yeah, that was weird, suspicious, but I just don't know. Why you would do that. Perry says they couldn't possibly know that the stock market is going to crash. Signaling rather than talking is a thing. When and how the New York Noir system and tools could be used. It would be ridiculous to communicate your insider trading in a card game. That can't be it. It must be that they want someone to win the game for whatever reason. Debbie says they might not know about the stock market, but they might know that certain companies are overvalued, or they could be causing them to. But why would they? Okay, well, let's leave aside the card game for a second. Marco's wondering how the New York Noir system and tools are going to be used here. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's proceed to that for a second here. So we're going to come back to this letter and we're going to decide where to send people. But this is how we're going to decide where to send our investigators. So let's get out. We don't need the rule book. We might need the navigation guide. Here's our white pages, our maps, our reverse directory, and our yellow pages. So we're going to spend a moment here going over New York Noir materials so that we understand how to use everything. Navigation guide just is general information about if you were traveling by bus, taxi, car, subway, walking, how long it would take you to do those things and various details. We probably don't need that for now. Quick start to the rules, we don't need that. But we do have yellow pages, white pages, reverse directory and map. You've seen me talk about these in various design diaries, but let's start here. There's Manhattan. Here's our overview of Manhattan. The New York Stock Exchange is all the way down in the southern tip of Manhattan in the financial district. So let's head over to the financial district and let's take a look at a little bit of history of the financial district. We got time. Let's look at this a little bit. Battery Park, originally occupied by the Lenape Native American Indians, gets its name for the artillery batteries that were built in the late 17th century to protect the Dutch settlers who populated the land behind them. So if you look, there's Battery Park, and Wall Street is here. Can you see there's Wall Street? Okay, so and there's Water Street. Remember, the person who's writing to us is at 1 Water Street. So there's Water Street and Wall Street. Probably 1 Water Street. I'm not sure exactly where, but here's Wall Street. Okay. There's a subway station. There's a police precinct. If we look up the New York Stock Exchange in our white pages. Let's see. There's the New York Stock Exchange at 11 Wall Street, block 56 of the financial district. So Wall Street, stock exchange is here, off Wall Street, right, adjacent to Nassau. Here's where the stock exchange is. And our guy is somewhere on Water Street, 1 Water Street. We could actually look him up to see if he's in the phone book Michael wants. So if we wanted to send one of our investigators to go knock on the door of Michael Want, let's see if we can find him. Okay. Want. Michael Want, there he is, 1 Water Street, apartment 1B. He's in the 100 block of the financial district. So actually he lives here, all the way down here. 1 Water Street, makes sense. Beginning of Water Street, moving up. So he lives here, he goes to work here. I mean, he's our guy. There's no need for us to go send someone to investigate there, but I'm just trying to get our bearings here. If we were curious, we could look up all the rest of these people to see where they lived. One of them works at JP Morgan Chase. Dean Kimmel, don't know where he works. One of them works at American Family Insurance. So the mechanics of this game are using our directories. So when we want someone to go somewhere, we will be telling them where to go. So if we want to interview these other people, we will be giving them the lead numbers that can be found in directories. I mean, I guess we should underline anything that we might want to go to. If we were interested in these stocks, we could drop by these companies, see how they're doing. I mean, I think it makes sense to, well, I don't know. I mean, do we want to confront these people or we spook them if we do? I'm curious about this guy who's very rigid in his method. I'm thinking maybe we send someone to interview him. Discard hearts. I wonder if we need to learn a little bit more about discard hearts. Okay, so the card game is at Francis Tavern. So it feels to me like we may want to send someone there to ask what if anyone has observed anything, maybe the bartender or something has observed anything about the game that's happening here at the tavern. Might make sense just to go down, have someone go down to the stock exchange to learn a little bit more about it. I'm a little gun shy about sending someone to interview Dean Kimmel, the guy who looks like he's cheating. Hmm. A little strange because I'm not sure where to send our guys, let's see what the chat thinks. What was the job of the guy who passed the low cards? DJ says the stakes for winning the game was being on the phone desk. Maybe that's an important source of info. Oh, that's clever. That's a very clever observation. That's a very clever observation that I completely missed. I think that was the punishment for losing, wasn't it? But let's look at that again. Boy, that's a clever observation. DJ Money got that. Okay, let's find that again. All right. There's nothing illegal about our game. However, it does play a small part in some honoraries and privileges. For example, yesterday's game determined who would need to cover the Baltimore phone operator's lunch break. Boy, I think you've got it. I think you've got it. I think DJ has hit it right on the head. Boy, that's a clever observation. So I think this is very clever. It's a little tricky here, but what have we got here? It sounds like it's saying whoever loses needs to sit in for the Baltimore phone operator's desk at the stock market. So I think what we might be looking at here is the guy who's deliberately losing. He relays trades from East Coast branches. That would include Baltimore, probably. That's very interesting. So is it not about winning in this case, but about deliberately losing so that Hartman can be on the desk, get information about trades before the rest of the traders hear about them? It's basically his way to get insider information by being on this phone desk. All right, so really what we want is to investigate this information, the Baltimore phone operator, and our chief suspicion now falls on Hartman. In fact, it may be that Kimmel is not in on this at all. The guy's winning. It's interesting, right? Because he says 3 people are playing poorly. Kimmel, Hamoud, and Hartman. But Kimmel and Hamoud are winning despite their playing poorly. Hartman is losing and playing poorly. In other words, he's the player who's being clever, who's deliberately losing. I think that makes some sense. Macon says, what we have are persistent winners, not losers. Well, it may just be that our guy is not paying much attention to who's losing. Assuming we've got it right, that it's whoever loses. It may just be that our guy has figured out that these people are always winning, but he's not paying attention to who's always losing. Very interesting. Now, Baltimore phone operator's lunch break. I don't know if we can. I'm not sure that there's going to be an entry for the Baltimore phone operator. It's more a question of being at the stock exchange and getting that phone. We just have Baltimore and Ohio Bus Company. But we do have the telephone operators. We could go to AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph. But perhaps it's more significant that he's at the desk of the stock exchange, Baltimore operator. All right. Well, let's look at our list of detectives again and see who we want to send where. Homicide officer, $2. War veteran medic, he's the tough. Then we have a burglary guy. Tired beat cop who's slightly drunk. Looks like these are jobs for Alice. But maybe they're not going to give too much. Maybe that, the stock market guy's not going to give too much information to Alice. Maybe we need proper police detective to get him to tell information. All right, well. Let's see. Looks like Hartman and Kimmel are working together to determine who wins. I don't know that you need the guy who's winning to be involved, but possibly. Debbie says, I definitely think we should get someone to look more closely at the finances of the AT&T and New York Central Railroad companies whose stocks are being sold. The phone operator thing is just an example, though. We don't know what the punishment for losing was in other games. Maybe it was cleaning the toilets. Yes, but maybe it was always covering the phones. So, let me see. What were some other rewards or punishments for losing, winning? All right. It's not like we have to send a different person to each place. We can just send one person to a bunch of one person, use one person for a while. Reminds me of Watson. Boxing ring, 50 cents a lead. Beat cop. I'm not sure Alice is going to have much luck at these professional organizations. Well, okay. Where do we want to go? Debbie says Kimmel is one of the ones involved in selling the accelerating stocks, which suggests he's involved. Okay, here's my suggestion. We have a bunch of questions that we want Michael to fill us in on, the person who's writing us. So I suggest we send Alice there to Michael's house with a bunch of our questions. right? So that's my suggestion, is that we give Alice a bunch of questions in a newspaper. Send Alice to Michael. This is our guy who's writing to us, to answer questions above. And if we're playing this game proper, like New York Noir, then we want Michael want, which we looked up already, but we'll look it up again, to 6376. 6376. That's Michael wants directory information. Okay. I don't think Alice is going to be very useful for other stuff. Megan says Alice could talk with the telephonists, maybe. I definitely want to send someone to the bar, so let's send our drinker to the bar. Yes, good. Couldn't we just ask Michael the questions in our letter? I guess we are. Well, we're writing to Wiggins, and Wiggins has to write to Michael, and then Michael writes back. It's better to just send Wiggins' daughter, I think. Let's just say everything has to be with one of these people. Okay, yes, okay, let's send our drinking problem guy to the tavern. Okay, so we're gonna send Joe Billion to Francis Tavern, which I will look up here. Should be nearby in the financial district, I assume. Francis Tavern on Pearl Street in the financial district, 27773. Okay. All right. Our main thing that we care about is the phone exchange information. How are we going to follow that up? If that's our primary theory currently, who are we going to send and where? $2 a week. That's just very expensive. We want to investigate these two people. I think we should investigate the guy who's losing and the guy who's winning. And the stock market. where are we going to send someone to learn about the Baltimore phone operator? Okay. Maybe we lean heavy on Alice in the beginning. Let's send Alice to the trading floor and pretend that she's doing a story on the stock exchange. And then she can ask some questions about, like, what does the operator do? Marco says we could ask who lose when the punishment was to cover the phone break. Yesterday's game determined who would need to cover the Baltimore operator's lunch break. You have a good point that when did he catch? Always seemed to win. He says one night last week, Hartman passed his 3 cards. I wonder if that's a different night. Okay, well, I guess we do need to ask. All these questions that Alice is going to ask is going to be, who covered the phone operator last week? The loser. Who? Okay, so we can get a specific answer about that. All right, let's investigate a little bit. I want to send Alice to the stock market. And she can pretend like she's doing a study. She won't. Maybe she'll disarm people. It already says they're not good at lying it to her. She'll disarm them. She'll pretend she's doing a story on the stock market. Stock exchange on Wall Street is 49689. 689. Alice to stock exchange. Ask about the. We're going to ask about the Baltimore phone operators or other operators. Couldn't they cheat by knowing trades ahead of time, etc.? We'll see if we can't get someone to reveal to Alice that if they had insider information, they could use it to their benefit. On the other hand, if we think this is the most important thing, we could spend a $2 lead and send the homicide officer to ask about that. $0.50 a lead. Maybe we'd send our Roger to do the other stuff. Let's not spook these people. All right, so let's send someone to investigate our people that we're concerned about. So I think what we do is we're going to say, stop by Dean Kimmel's house. He's our wealthy investor. And American Family Insurance. That was the other guy who was winning. That's Hamoud. And then Hartman at JP Morgan Chase. I think maybe we send our Roger Vernon to do these. He's the 50 cents a lead guy who's a little bit of a tough guy, so maybe they'll be afraid to lie to him. Oh, it did say that we shouldn't send Alice to more than one place at a time. Good point. All right, let's send our expensive guy here. He'll have to sniff out. Maybe he can use his knowledge to get a better sniff about insider trading. Okay, and then let's give an address for these places. Dean Kimmel, who's our wealthy investor. Dean Kimmel, 71088. And then American Family Insurance. American Family Insurance is 64143. And then JP Morgan Chase. Okay, I don't see JP Morgan Chase, but that can't be right. Oh, here it is. It's JP Morgan Chase. Okay, so he surely works at the Wall Street branch. 15403. 5403. All right, let me check in with the chat here. Maybe we could ask some other expert to investigate the company whose stocks are being sold. Someone with expert knowledge of finance. I think the PI guy should look into the finances of AT&T and the railway. What about Mason Carrier, the person running this game? I feel like we should I want to send someone to talk to the guy running this game. And I think maybe we send Duddy Brooks, the unsavory guy, just to see if he can sniff whether this guy's running some sort of scam. And we'll get a feel for all of our investigators and who's good and who's bad. Visit Mason Carrier. Let's look him up. M Carrier 29855. I mean, that's a lot of places we're sending people. We're going to run through our budget pretty quick. I'm not 100% sure. As a reminder, for this game, there's a Discord for this channel, and we will discuss some of this stuff before I submit this. So if you want to come and help figure out some last minute details for what we submit. Debbie says, what's Alice doing? We're going to have Alice go to Michael Launt's house and bring him all our pending questions about the case. So all of these top questions here, we're going to have Alice ask. We're going to give her a list of questions to bring to Michael Lant, who's our guy. Keep her safe. And then our beat drunken cop goes to the tavern to see if he's observed anything. Our experienced detective is going to go to the stock exchange to follow our main open-ended lead, which is to try to discover if our theory is right that someone could get insider information. And then we're going to have Roger Vernon, who's our sort of jack of all trades, go to the 3 people that we think might be involved in cheating and interview them. And then we're going to have Duddy Brooks, the burglar, criminal, scam con artist, go to see the guy who's running the card game to find out what he can about this card game. I think that makes that's reasonable, a reasonable start to our case. The only question I have is whether we should be actually going to all these places. I think this idea of what's going on here is right. So this guy is right now my primary suspect. Is there any reason to send our top guy there? Debbie says, I think we should be a bit more focused. Is there a limit to how many places we can send people to? When we send in our moves, we will send in a note saying we may be asking you to go to too many places. I mean, they're all in the same neighborhood, so it's not so crazy to think that our one guy, we're only asking one guy to go to 3 places. So should we, okay, here's the only last question I have for this group. Should we, right now I've got us sending the $2 guy to the stock exchange. And the idea is that I was going to send Alice to sort of disarm them with her, childhood charm. But instead, because we think this is important, I'm sending our $2 guy. But maybe we should send our super experienced detective to Hartman, who we suspect may be purposefully losing, and see if our top detective can catch this guy lying. And then either send someone else to the stock exchange or send no one to the stock exchange for now. Debbie says, send the $2 guy for when we have very specific questions. It is a lot of our budget. It's like 10% of our budget. Should we really be sending him? All right, maybe we don't send anyone to the stock exchange. Yeah. Okay. Let's try to save some money here. We're not going to send anyone to the stock. We're not going to send our top $2 guy anywhere today. We're going to save him for when we need him. So I'm going to cancel this one. We'll send Alice down there eventually if we need to. Oh, let's see. What's my strike through? Alt Shift 5. Okay. So all right, let's just do these. Let's do these for now. A little bit at a loss to know. Well, let's go to these places. You're wasting Alice on Michael questions. The thing is, we have to make up the rules as we play. And the way I'm assuming the rules work is that we're not going to write a letter to Michael with questions. We're going to play by the rules of the game where we have to send someone somewhere. So in order to ask Michael questions, we have to send someone to Michael. That's how I'm interpreting the rules. So I'm choosing to send Alice there. I feel like Alice is going to be our star here. So she's going to Michael. We're going to get her and Michael to be friends, and she's got lots of time to spend talking to Michael about questions. So Wiggins explicitly says he'll pass on the letter, does he? Let's see. Request an expert. I have some connections. Choose as many leads as you like. Money is limited. You always have more information later. He says you can run all the correspondence by me, and I'll get it to where it belongs. I won't be knocking on doors this time. Okay, the point is, if we have questions for Michael, all the correspondents are going to Wiggins. So someone has to go talk to Michael. And that's going to be Alice. Oh, I see. It does say client questions. All right. Well, we'll put the questions here, and we'll say, feel free to send Alice to talk to him to get answers to the questions. You're right, though. There is a questions for the clients. All right. Well, that's where our questions will go. We'll see. We'll get a reply from Michael, and we'll find out. Maybe Alice is not needed for those questions, in which case we'll send her to the stock exchange to ask a little bit around. All right. Matt says there is a line for client questions. Okay, well, if I still say he's not going to have correspondence with Michael through the mail. We're going to want someone to go talk to him. And I think that might as well be Alice. But we can make a note here that says if Alice is not needed with Michael, then maybe send her to the stock exchange to learn more about the Baltimore desk phone operators. All right. Let's stop there. We'll discuss this a little bit more on Discord in the coming days before we submit our moves. The only thing that's got me a little bit stumped in this case is how to investigate it. We don't have a scene of a crime. We've got people that may be involved in insider trading. I do think the brilliant insight here was the idea that people could be throwing this game to get the punishments which may involve being on the phone. I think that is absolutely central. And we're going to want a list of who lost what punishments that might give them the inside information. If we wanted to prove that, what would we want? We would want to know about we do kind of want some financial person to give us some thoughts on whether you could intercept that information. So I guess what I would put actually at the top of the list, which maybe our guy Michael Lant could answer, is someone. This is our working theory, right? Could someone working phone to Baltimore Exchange, etc., make use of that info to trade, to gain advantage in trades? I mean, it seems like they could, and that's our main theory. All right, well, why don't we stop here? Our next letter will tell us more if we're on the right track. I'll see you next week.